According to the elitists in Washington, D.C., the biggest international threat to America is Russia. Of course, while we need a tough response to Russian aggression, the elite's Russia obsession has obscured the real threat. Another country has also hacked our democracy. On top of that, it has stolen our technology, bought our companies, hired our lobbyists, funded our think tanks, and bribed and corrupted our establishment elite, all while advancing an aggressive, authoritarian agenda of state-sponsored human rights abuse, surveillance, and colonialism. China is tonight's Swamp Watch. China is a brutal, corrupt, communist dictatorship. It has a stated aim of world domination, expressed most recently around the time that Chinese leader Xi Jinping was made president for life. China has published official plans to achieve global dominance economically and militarily by owning the industries of the future, like artificial intelligence and quantum computing. The plan is called Made in China 2025. China's also working to achieve global dominance geographically by building massive infrastructure projects around the world, from Asia to Africa to Latin America, even the Caribbean. That plan, basically just a modern form of colonialism, is called One Belt, One Road. There's no question that China is America's biggest and most dangerous enemy. So you'll be reassured to know that our wise and patriotic elders and betters in the Washington, D.C. establishment have been appropriately tough with China. You know, like they wanted President Trump to be with Vladimir Putin. Not quite. Former CIA Director John Brennan, you'll remember, called President Trump's Helsinki comments treasonous, grounds for impeachment. But hang on a second, what's this? Back in 2003, Brennan left the CIA for a spin through the swamp's famous revolving door. He became president and CEO of a private intelligence company called the Analysis Corporation. That company was then bought by Global Strategies Group, which had security contracts with China, all while Brennan was serving as president of Analysis Corporation. But it's not just the well-known swamp creatures China has bought. One of the most aggressive ways China has attacked America is through buying up US companies and stealing their technology and trade secrets. In theory, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, or CFIUS, part of the Treasury Department, is supposed to regulate these kinds of acquisitions and block them if they threaten national security. Thankfully, CFIUS has been massively toughened up under the Trump administration after years of turning a blind eye to Chinese threats. But was it a blind eye or a swampy eye? Anne Saladin spent 20 years in the Treasury Department and reviewed some 500 deals serving on CFIUS. She then joined the law firm Struck & Lavan, where, guess what? She advised a Chinese private equity firm on its purchase of US semiconductor assets. No wonder the Chinese think we're such corruptible idiots. China's lobbyists are in and out of Congress as often as the US Postal Service, and that's just based on the small percentage of Chinese government lobbying that's actually declared under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or FARA. In April this year, a lobbying firm called Amagai Policy Advisors submitted a FARA report detailing how Sinopec Group hired them to, quote, arrange meetings with members and employees of Congress to discuss Sinopec's investments in the United States. In 2017, Sinopec hired another lobbying firm called Cowen Strategies to do exactly the same work, arranging meetings with members of Congress. The same year, another Chinese entity, the China National Forest Products Industry Association, which is supervised and financed by the Chinese government, hired US lobbying firm Hush Blackwell to educate Congress on SNFPIA's concerns regarding issues involving the importation of plywood from China into the United States. Rogich Communications Group, an American company, took a contract from China's Rylin Industrial Group, owned and controlled by the Chinese government, offering PR advice as well as, you guessed it, communication with members of Congress. If there's a Chinese interest, you can bet there's a US lobbying firm manipulating your representatives in Congress on their behalf. If only you had as much access to your member of Congress as the Chinese government. Who knows what might get done for actual Americans? And it goes beyond Congress. If you dig into China's escalating war against America, you'll find something called the China-United States Exchange Foundation, or CUSEF, at the heart of it. Its leader, Hong Kong shipping magnate Tung Chee-hwa, also serves as vice chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, which is tied to the United Front Work Department, an agency of the Chinese Communist Party. In addition to hiring the obligatory Washington lobbying firms like Capital Counsel, QCEF is funding research at a number of high-profile DC universities and think tanks, hoping to shape how the elite talks about Chinese-American relations. For example, the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies is one of the top international relations schools in the US. Based in DC, many of its graduates join a variety of government agencies, from the State Department to the CIA, making it a perfect target for QCEF, which recently funded a new endowed professorship there in the China Studies Department, as well as a new research project exploring what China's broader role in Asia and the world means for its neighbors and partners. I wonder what the answer to that will be. Johns Hopkins is not the only august elite institution taking money from this shady organization. QCEF has also worked on projects with the Brookings Institution, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the Atlantic Council, the Center for American Progress, the East-West Institute, the Carter Center, and the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Here's another example of China having Washington think tanks in its pocket. The Institute for China-American Studies, based in D.C., is funded by Hainan Nanhai Research Foundation, which in turn is backed by the government-affiliated National Institute for South China Sea Studies. The Council on Foreign Relations took a look at their research and found what you might expect. They published plenty of material that's critical of United States policies, but never seem to publish material that criticizes Chinese policies. What a surprise. But the worst part of all this is that the China swamp is actually a two-way street. Not only is China profiting from the US establishment, American elites are making a ton of money from China. Hillary Clinton's emails revealed a choice example. Her chief of staff, Cheryl Mills, invited Bill Clinton's former chief of staff, Thomas McClarty, to attend an official US-China dinner. McClarty had significant business interests in the Chinese car industry, and his thank you email to Cheryl Mills was a case study of swampiness in action. He told Mills that the dinner allowed him to connect both with Hillary Clinton and Chinese leaders dealing with the private sector, which, he added, is of course important to our automotive activities in China. Oh yes, of course. But the true champions of China corruption were exposed by Peter Schweizer in his latest book, Secret Empires. He details how the son of Vice President Joe Biden and the stepson of former Secretary of State John Kerry made a fortune from backroom deals with companies connected to the Chinese government. Deals that were made while Biden and Kerry were negotiating sensitive issues with the Chinese government. At one point, Vice President Biden's son, Hunter, even flew with his father on Air Force Two on an official trip to China and accompanied him in a number of meetings with high-level government officials, all while at the same time negotiating a deal between his private equity firm, Rosemont Seneca, and the Bank of China. The deal was finalized 10 days after Hunter Biden left China with his father. Biden! This is the man who wants to run for president in 2020 and never stops criticizing President Trump and his family for conflicts of interest. What a total and totally corrupt hypocrite. What goes for Biden goes for all of them. The Washington, D.C. establishment is up to its neck in Chinese cash and cronyism. They bleat about Russia, while all the time they've been selling America out to our greatest enemy. That, John Brennan, really is treasonous.